Hey everybody, welcome to my next listing. Here's a really cool one for you. I don't do these very often, but they're really sharp. This is a Pioneer PL-30L. Direct drive, semi-automatic turntable. It's been recapped and restored. I put a really cool sounding Pioneer cartridge on there. It's a great shape, it's ready to rock. So me, with the Snoop Doggy Dog with his ear in the air like he just don't care. Let's go to the features and functions of this really cool machine for you. That's my boy. He's doing fine. We're doing great. I hope you guys are getting ready for the holidays and you and your families are all doing fine as well, man. So let me get into this turntable. This is, like I said, the Pioneer PL-30L. It's direct drive, semi-automatic. It's been recapped and restored. I changed all the electrolytics out to Elnas and Nichicons and Panasonics. I lubed the motor. I pulled the arm completely out, lubed it, lubed the VTA tube, cleaned the Hall sensor, which is like their photomagnetic sensor. I did the motor waveforms with a scope, did the variable resistors with a voltmeter. I cleaned all the front panel switches. Yeah, it's just ready to rock. I put on a Pioneer PC330. This is a moving magnet Pioneer cartridge. Sounds great on this turntable. Just a fantastic match for this thing. So let me go around here again. We get the jib cam shot here, the high side of her. I'll go around here and get the back. The dust cover is pretty clean, really clean on this one, actually. You know, a lot of times my dust covers, I cannot get them as scratch-free as I used to. You guys hopefully, maybe you know the story. I got injured in the garage on a buffing wheel trying to make a dust cover perfect, and it got so bad, I don't play guitar as well as I used to anymore. It's kind of permanent, but it's still okay. I mean, it's fine. And but because of that, I just don't try to get every little scratch and everything out of them. I can get you a brand new cover. I have a guy in California who does that stuff if you want to. But this one's so clean, I think you're going to love it. So speaking of thinking you're going to love it, I want to talk about the artist today. This is somebody that I bet 90% of y'all never heard of. But she should have been way bigger, could have been way bigger, but it just didn't happen. I kind of have a theory why. But unless you're in Boston, you probably still don't know about her. But let's go ahead and talk about Robin Lane and the Chartbusters. So tell me it's 1980 without telling me it's 1980. That cover, man. That's the first Robin Lane and the Chartbusters record, okay? Robin Lane was born in 47. Man, the last several artists I've done have been born in 47. Now, she was born in Burbank, California, which you guys, I know have a lot of international people here. For Burbank is in Los Angeles. It is the hub of the TV and film industry still. Santa Monica's kind of gotten in there, but back in, especially in these days, in the 40s and through 70s, that was the Mecca. That's where all the studios and stuff were at. Her dad was Ken Lane. He is well known as he was Dean Martin's piano player and musical arranger. And matter of fact, he wrote Dean's signature song, Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime, classic song. He wrote it the year that Robin was born. So anyway, her mom was a model. Go figure. But anyway, you know, by the 60s, she kind of drifted down to Laurel Canyon, that whole circuit down there. Laurel Canyon is a road, and it's a canyon. There's, you know, LA's in a valley, then you go up the hills into the, they call them Hollywood Hills. But Laurel Canyon is a road, and it actually, a lot of people in the hippie scene, soft rock scene, they had their houses there. Stephen Stills and Joni Mitchell and Graham Nash and David Crosby and Jackson Browne and all these guys. And she got into that scene of the soft rock deal there. Matter of fact, you know, she was kind of starting to write songs here too, but she was kind of surrounded by, there's a story, she was actually sitting across from Stephen Stills when he wrote For What It's Worth. So go figure. Her first musical recording, she actually sang backup on a Neil Young song on his 69 record, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. So she left the Laurel Canyon scene, though, in the early 70s and moved clear across the country to Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is kind of odd. That's where Harvard is. I don't know. But anyway, she got involved there, you know, writing her folk songs and stuff. But then she got exposed to the Rat. Now, the Rat is a club. It's actually called the Rat Skeller. But it is basically, best way to tell you, it was CBGB's of Boston. Just the biggest shithole, broken toilet, pee in the sink, fights every night, beer on the stage, just freaking awesome. It was an awesome club. I played there 100 years ago, and like I say, it was just amazing. What I remember is the guy who ran it was a guy named Jimmy Harold. He was actually really super nice, and you know, everybody's dressed like punks and stuff, and the doorman is dressed like he's in a wedding, like he's the groom. It was the weirdest thing ever. That and you know, it's in the cellar. That's why they call it the rat cellar. Upstairs was a restaurant. I think it was called Voodoo, something. Had really good food. I remember that. Well, anyway, she got involved in that scene so much so that she decides to put a band together, and she meets the couple of guys who used to be in Jonathan Richman's Modern Lovers. A guy named Asa Brenner and a guy named Leroy Radcliffe. Now, Leroy, you want to keep an eye on here because we're going to talk about him a little bit more in a bit. So she puts this band together. They start playing there, and they actually get a deal with Private Stock Records. Private Stock was one of those one-off, one-hit wonder kind of record labels, and it actually folded right in like 79. And the next year, the great Jerry Wexler caught one of her shows and signed her to Warner Brothers. So they made this first record called Robin Lane and the Chartbusters. Okay, it has the her best-known song on it that we will play here. It went to number 31, I believe. Yeah, good, but not, you know, great. They had a follow-up EP that same year, which was smart because they're such a tight live band. You should go and check out, there's YouTube videos of them actually, I think, playing at the Rathskeller. And you can see how great these guys are. Nice, tight band. She plays a Rickenbacker 12-string. It's just really, really cool. So they do that record. And they do one more album in 81 called Imitation Life. And it doesn't quite set the world on fire. And right about that time, she was kind of wanting to get off the road. Her and Leroy were kind of a couple, and she got pregnant. And the record label said, hey, if you're pregnant, you're not going to be a sex symbol, and we don't know what to do with you, and you're out. And they got him off the label. Now, I was saying earlier why, you know, these bands don't, why she wasn't like a household name, like a Christy Hynde or a, you know, Debbie Harry or whatever. And it's image, okay? You know, she's too talented to flash her titties because she writes great songs. She's not mean enough to be Christy Hynde and just kick your ass. And she doesn't have that Pixie, Debbie Harry, Marilyn Monroe type thing going on either. So I don't think record companies knew what to do with her. And this is back in the days of Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics too. So I don't think they know what to do with her, and they just kind of let her die on the vine. So she had her baby with Leroy. The band broke up. She did a solo EP in 1984. Kind of didn't do anything. And she just started raising her kid. From 85 to like 94, she would occasionally go out on tour. She'd go to Europe and open for Warren Zevon or John Hyatt or just play some festivals. And by 95, she decided to cut a solo record. It was called Catbird Sings. It's on an indie label, but it got great press. She got on the cover of Billboard magazine, a lot of great write-ups. It was all really cool. Actually, back in 89, I forgot to tell you, she actually released a live recording on cassette only, which I know cassettes are back now, but that's weird. Just do it on cassette. Really indie, right? Way to go. So by 2001, there was a lot of pressure, not pressure, but a lot of people wanted to hear the Chartbusters again. So most of the band, everybody but one, got back together, and they were doing some shows as the Chartbusters. It went so well that the band got back together and cut a record in 2003. It was called Piece of Mind. It was like piece of cake, not piece of peace, symbol, peace, right? And they did that. They still kind of slugged around, did some dates every so often and stuff, but by 2010, she kind of found her calling. What we didn't mention here is that while she was in that relationship with Leroy, he was beating her, and she was pretty, she was abused, and she decides in 2010, after she meets so many other women and drug users and guys who war veteran traumatized people, she starts a record label called Songbird Records, and she uses music therapy to get these people who have been abused to get their feelings out, write songs. She helps them write songs. They record them, and it's a great thing for music therapy. Okay, so that's been her calling since 2010. But in 2013, the drummer Tim Jackson, if I mentioned the guys in the band, It was Asa Brenner on guitar, Leroy on guitar, Tim Jackson, and Scott Bearwald on bass. Tim Jackson was an art school professor. He was also a filmmaker. And he decides in 2013 to make a documentary about Robin because she's an icon in the Boston area. She's like the best known unknown artist out of that whole era back then, right? And, he decides to make a documentary about her, and it's called When Things Go Wrong, which is the title of her most popular song I'm going to play for you. Now, when he did an interview, I read it. I was going to read it to you word for word what he said. He had this great quote that basically, people see documentaries. It's either about seeing how people they're so superstardom and they just make it great, or they just fucking destroy themselves, and it's a wonder they can even breathe. How do they make it? Well, people like Robin are just creative people who are, scuffling and made it work. So he did that movie based upon like an average working musician who almost made it big. And it was actually pretty successful to the point where to this day, she still screens it. She'll do coffee house. She's got a gig tomorrow night. So she's still playing. I'm getting ahead of myself. But she's still playing. So a lot of her shows are either like, based upon charity things to raise money for, the abuse center that she works for. But what happened was in 2017, she was approached by a guy from Blixa Records and said, "Hey, I want to put your compilation together of your songs, but I know you don't own the copyrights and stuff of them. So if I can help you get your copyrights and your publishing and stuff back for you, could we do like a box set CD type thing and like release all this stuff?" So he actually helped her get some of her copyrights and stuff back. They put this 3 CD set together called many years ago. And I very rarely recommend you guys buy CDs over vinyl. But this thing is really great because it's got all 3 of their albums, her solo EP, a bunch of demos, and all kind of stuff like that. And it sounds great. And it's got a really cool booklet that goes into the history. And as I mentioned, that whole thing with the documentary about Leroy beating her and stuff, he admits it in the movie. Okay. I mean, I'm not talking shit, although I should, but he admits it. They made up. She's forgiven him. Matter of fact, he passed away in 2019, and she wrote a really moving thing about him. So, but anyway, like I said, they're still playing, still get together every so often. Tim is an art professor. Scott Bear, the bass player, still plays bass with her. Asa Brenner, the crazy guitar player who was in Modern Lovers and stuff, he was an icon around Boston. He was like a mentor. Everybody coming up in the business who were making it, he would kind of help them through the ropes and tell them what to do and what not to do. And it was kind of like the big granddaddy of helping these guys out. So when he passed away, 2 days after a reunion show in 2019, he did a show. He wrote a funny blog about how it was getting back together because they hadn't played together in years. And then 2 days later, he's dead. And they never did really say why. But in the next year, they did a big tribute concert. And everybody from Peter Wolf and Elliot Easton and all the big Boston guys got together because he was just really an icon in that area. And like I say, Robin is still playing. She's doing a gig on Friday. She does coffee houses. She does clubs. They'll do a thing. A lot of Texas guys are doing this too. They take a movie or they take something and they'll get a theater and they'll screen the movie and then they'll play a set of songs and they'll take like a Q&A from the audience. So it's a really great, like almost like a fan club experience of getting like intimate with these artists. And it's it's just a really cool way of getting more in touch with the music and stuff. So she's doing that stuff. Matter of fact, this weekend she's got a gig somewhere in Massachusetts. So anyway, with that being said, that is the great story of Robin Lane and the Chartbusters. I probably left out some stuff, but man, just great band. Just didn't want to play the game. Like I mentioned, she was a born again Christian. Didn't never really came out. People knew it, who knew her. But the rest of the guys were party animals, and she was just that just wasn't her scene. But she was just a really talented, really good songwriter. I don't know if she didn't want to play the game or just didn't want to go gimmicky out enough to make it work. I was looking at that album cover thinking that might be the case and missed it by that much. So let me go ahead. I'm going to play a track here. We're going to go to the next section, show you how the turntable works. We'll play a track from Robin and the Chartbusters, and we'll get this going, man. Thanks, guys, so much for checking it out. Yeah, it's my boy. He hangs out with me. I gotta tell you, I love him. Anyway, let me show you about. Are you snorting? Are you snorting over there? There you go. You stretch. You be a good boy. let me show you how this turntable works. The 30 and the 50 and the 70 all kind of work the same. We'll get into that. But there's a power button right here. It turns it on. It defaults to 33. You have a speed button here. It goes between 33 and 45. You have a start button right here for just the motor. And there's a lock light. So as soon as it starts, it gets to 33. You can go to 45 instantly. It locks to 45. You can go back to 33. It slows down instantly. And you can turn it off. And the brake circuit nuts it right out, right? This is your queuing. Light on is up. Light off is down. I've repacked it so it's nice and slow. This is a Pioneer PC330 moving magnet cartridge. Sounds fantastic. Great match for the arm. Sounds great on the turntable. Set right my Fiker protractor. VTA adjustment. That's all dialed in for you. Removable head shell. So if you got Pioneers or Kenwoods or JVCs or Denons or Sonys or Sansuis, all that SME style head shells, these all work. Arm locks right back here. This folds over. There's a set screw here and back there that's set to VTA. You loosen it up and you can lift it up for VTA. This is your anti-skating. I've adjusted the spring for that, right? This does have an oil damping system. You can pull this up and that turns it on. You can push it back down. It turns it off. I never use it. I never heard enough of a difference to make it worth the oily, bloody mess that having that oil in your machine does, but it's there. This is a regular style. There's no servo or nothing on it. Just ballast style counterweight. Don't use that dial. It means nothing because it makes no sense. Get yourself a digital stylus gauge for 15 bucks on Amazon and you just dial it into what you need to be. 1.7 grams for this cartridge to be exact. So anyway, that's really about it, man. When you want to play a record on this thing, you'd have it on. You have a record on it. You move the arm over where you want it to be. You hit your power. You lower it down, as you can see with a pack like that, it's ready to go. Let's check out some Robin Lane and the Chartbusters. And that's the great Robin Lane and the Chartbusters. Doesn't that sound like the beginning of that song could have been made in 1970 instead of 1980? I guess that's that Laurel Canyon thing. Anyway, let me go ahead and put the dust cover down, and we will wrap this thing up, show you how you can make this thing your own. So I lied. I want to show you how this thing lifts at the end because it's really cool. Pioneers are cool. You'll see it goes over and you'll see the lifter light come on. Arm lifts up. 5 revolutions later, the motor shuts off. It's just a cool thing Pioneers do that no other ones do. I just think it's really classy. It takes a lot of circuitry to split those up like that. I mean, I guess they had the money. But just a really cool feature, and I just wanted to show you guys that it is semi-automatic. So let me go and put the cover down. We'll wrap this thing up, man. Thanks for checking it out. So with the dust covered down and the dog snoring beside me, let's go to the map. Like I said, this is a really sweet, really clean Pioneer PL-30L turntable. Recapped and restored. You guys know it. You can go back to the earlier segments. It is just in fantastic shape. Nice sharp corners. Just really ready to go. Pioneer cartridge. Like, what can I tell you? So it is, this turntable will be, wait for it, $600 plus the shipping. That's with the cartridge. So I only take Zelle. I only take PayPal friends and family. If you want a full-blown invoice, PayPal type invoice, I'll do it. That's what I used to do all the time until this year, because the new tax laws they hit you for 15% taxes. They 1099 you at the end of the year. So if you want to pay $690 for this thing instead of $600 and have that protection, I'm there for you, Bob. Hopefully my reputation and all these other people who chime in about, getting turntables and stuff from me, hope that makes it work. But if you want to do the 90, I got no problem. I'll make it work. So with that being said, man, I can't thank you enough for sticking with me, all you guys followers. It's awesome. Next turntable up is probably going to be a 57L Denon, probably. And then after that, I'm not sure. I just got to try to figure out. I'm trying to get as many done in time for the holidays as I can. I'm making these things plug and play ready, because of that. All you'll have to do with this thing is screw the counterweight on, get that $15 digital stylus gauge, set it on the platter, dial it into 1.7 for this cartridge, plug her in, and it's ready to go. What can I tell you? It's just that sweet. So thank you guys again. I so appreciate you. I hope you're all having a happy holiday season. Get yourself a rescue dog if you can. Hug your loved ones, and don't let whatever's going on outside get to you. And man, we'll catch you up on the next one. Thank you guys so much.